first week, and I'm already exhausted.
You know, that's how it is. I was like, why do I feel so tired already? I did my usual donut shop right after class. I'm like, falling asleep. And he was talking, and I'm like, what is happening?
And now I'm trying
Well, you switched your habit. You're really like started staying at home. So now you're doing what you did first.
yeah. Well, see what happened. My mom got sick, so I started, and then she was in the hospital. So I
Yes.
And it was just easier for me because she was right there next to me while I was sick.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God.
then, but I was like, concentrating because I was. That's when I come into it.
Oh. Trish, can you hear me? Can you hear?
I gave you yours yesterday.
Yeah, I need you.
No.
And I can totally see.
Maybe it's Trish.
Right.
He's fun too. Who helped you write? What do you do?
Chinese. No, I don't.
Oh, I'm good.
Can you hear?
Yeah, I didn't think it would. Actually, who did this though, Brian? Let me see. I know that wasn't you.
I don't have.
I mean,
It
actually,
doesn't
I
have
wouldn't.
that color mix.
I wouldn't.
That's not my shade.
It's not my shade.
That's
Oh, not sure.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Are you on mute?
Trish?
Yeah,
No
you can't
shit.
hear us.
Pardon?
You can't hear.
No, she can't hear, so what am I supposed to do? Mute microphone. Microphone's not muted.
Every time you that.
Yes. That's totally you.
I would never do that. I wouldn't do that.
Can you hear me now?
Unmute your computer, your volume.
She can't hear us either.
Oh, you can't.
I don't think it does. Is it?
No.
Is there any way you can?
It's not me, it's you.
It's gotta be her computer.
Do you think she can fly back? You can, Kelly.
I would have to double click the video. The video that's at the bottom.
Yeah.
When I was on there, double click it.
Do you have her cell phone number?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Can someone call her, and Clara has had to do this
She'll be-
online before, so
Do you have the group text?
have her, she needs to, double check the video on her.
She can't read the screen. Oh.
Claire.
Okay, say that again, we'll reach you that.
Hold the phone up so she knows. It's right
Do you
here.
have her phone number?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just tell
just
her.
call
All right.
Give your cell phone.
Hi, okay, so on the bottom, is there not the video, but next to it, do you see any icons on the bottom of the screen? Okay,
Because
Hit the
side
audio
here,
twice.
it's gonna be
2 times.
student has been set up. Because to
Is
do
this
it
the first time she's done this?
yesterday, she did
Um,
yesterday.
Yeah,
She lost
it's
it.
not doing it. What about, okay, so we don't have do you have anything plugged in on the side? You don't have the okay, take it out and put it back in.
Is her volume up? Maybe she's
Okay.
volume down.
Can you,
Well, we can't hear her.
Yeah.
you
So-
can hear us though, right?
I think so.
Now, what about the volume? Is it up on the side? On the right-hand side, there should be a volume button. See if that.
Wait.
When's Cy gonna be here?
He's already gone.
I know, he's never here when I'm here. He must know that I'm coming.
That's exactly right.
You heard it was your numbers.
That's right, he's, I'm out of here.
Can you hear her?
No.
No? It's okay. And the mute is not on?
Can she hear us?
Yes, she can hear us. but we can't
She can
her.
hear us.
Can you hear us? Okay,
Okay.
so you've escaped for tonight,
Have her-
okay?
have her
As
check
long as you can hear me, I'm not gonna call
Then
it,
put a line right in front of her.
okay? But next week, you gotta get it together.
What is
Hear
she
you.
saying? Put it on speaker, Claire.
Right. Pantomime.
Okay, we have you on speaker for just right now. We have you on speaker for right now.
We can hear you on the phone. Yeah,
We
Yeah.
can hear you.
yeah, so next week, we gotta get this thing together, okay?
What's different from last night?
Is it a different room? Maybe it's a different
Okay.
room.
Yeah. We just hear you on the cell
I
We
phone.
just
can hear you on
on the
the cell
phone.
phone.
Well,
We'll figure it out.
you're not up anyway on here. You should have you should have a picture.
In the whiteboard should be.
On the
Yeah, we don't have a
whiteboard?
picture of the
Yeah.
whiteboard,
I
look,
don't think we're set up right.
you got a picture of me
Uh,
and the students. Yeah, but we don't want you to see us, we want you to see the whiteboard.
Is there an icon on the top of the whiteboard or on the side of your screen?
I don't think we're set up right.
You don't have
No,
the
we are
whiteboard
set up
showing?
right.
You gotta get in and set it up.
Yeah.
Oh, then.
She can't, we're not set up right
Yeah,
because
she
she's,
We don't have to do that today.
okay. Tell her that we will have this set up.
We'll have it set up properly next week, okay? Just listen. You know the drill anyway. Okay? So she can hear it. All right. So let's get started.
Okay, okay.
Now we don't even have a whiteboard. Wait a minute.
Yeah, maybe it's hard.
Oh. Oh. Okay. So. Hello. Welcome to civil procedure.
Excuse me for interrupting, September 27, which is, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks down the road, whatever that is. First half of class, we're gonna all be in the big courtroom together, because we're having Otis Sterling, one of our judges, and David Greenberg come in. So we have to figure out how to get 3 hours in, an hour and a half that night, okay?
27.
27, just wanna let you know.
Okay. A minute. Oh, it's just personal jurisdiction. Probably one of the densest subjects in law school. Oh, okay, so half the class. I'll change the reading assignment. We'll talk about that later. First of all, has everybody read the reading assignment? Yeah? Did you brief it? Did anybody brief it? Huh?
I took a brief.
Yeah.
All right, no book briefing. All right, I'll tell you how to brief it. I got a handout for how to brief a civil procedure case, because it's different from what you've been doing. Civil procedure is different than what you do. Have you heard that civil procedure is different than what you've had? No? Well, it is. Isn't it, Trish? Can you hear?
No,
She can't hear.
nothing.
I'll send you an email. Okay. Bye. Okay, so I signed you in, but you can't hear me. So I don't know what to tell you.
Do you think she like logs back out and then logs in entirely?
She might, Latoya did that one time.
I don't want to waste a lot of time. Can you call her back and just tell her, never mind?
Okay.
I'll send her an email, but she's already taken this class. All right, so she kind of knows what to expect.
Hey, you can't hear? Okay, he said never mind, because you kind of taken this class already, but he'll send you an email, because he's probably gonna change the reading assignment. Okay,
Not next week, but just do the reading assignment for
yeah,
next week
just do the reading assignment for next week, he said. Okay,
and brief it.
and brief it. I have you need to tell him? Okay, hold on. Okay, you're on speaker.
Can you put up on the, can we put the phone up on the, where he's speaking? Or no?
Oh, you want it for the whole class?
Well, first of all, yeah, but you think it'll run out of batteries? I don't know, we use your batteries.
How much juice do you have?
76.
We're gonna have a short class tonight. I'm sure that'll upset everybody. But yeah, this is introduction. You've already had civil procedure. I'm just saying, I'm not gonna say anything you haven't heard before.
You can just put the phone down and it'll,
All right. Can you hear me?
yeah.
All right,
I can't hear you now.
all right. I'll sit over here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. So first thing, we're gonna just introduce ourselves, including you.
Okay.
All right, even though they've probably heard it before, but if they haven't, now they will. So I'll tell you something about me, then you guys tell me about yourself so I know who I'm talking to. Okay? I'm Steve Moyer. I was a public defender in Los Angeles for 15 years. At the end of about my 14th year, I had been in downtown Los Angeles most of my career. And I lived in West Los Angeles, which is near Santa Monica. And I used to be I used to hang out on the beach in Santa Monica from the time I was about 12 until my first year of law school. And about the 12th year of being in the public defender's office, I got assigned to Santa Monica. So I felt like I was going home. And where I lived was maybe 10 minutes from the courthouse, and I didn't have to fight freeway traffic going downtown LA or coming back home. And I was near the beach, and I loved it. And after 3 years, everybody could only do 3 years in Santa Monica because everybody wanted to go. Okay, so they transferred me back downtown, and I started looking to get back to Santa Monica, and that meant I was going to have to leave the office. And I eventually got a phone call from a judge who I had tried murder cases when I was in Santa Monica when I was a public defender. And he said this firm in Santa Monica was looking for a trial lawyer. It was a civil firm. And he told me the name, and I said, I don't know. I didn't know anything about civil law at that point. The only thing I knew was civil procedure. And torts and contracts and all that stuff. But I mean, I'd forgotten it all. 15 years later, you forget everything you learned in law school. Trust me. So he said, well, just go there and interview, and maybe you get the job. And so I go to this firm, and they have a 6-story building, and they had all 6 stories, and they had on the 6th floor the waiting room and a huge picture window of Santa Monica Mountains and the ocean. And I fell in love with the place. Went home, my wife said, so what do you think? I said, they're not gonna hire me. I'm a public defender. Civil firms don't hire public defenders. And they gave me a job offer the next day. So for the next 25 years, I was civil lawyer. I wound up specializing in other things as well, but my main specialty was defending lawyers in malpractice cases. And my best client was Johnny Cochran. You know who Johnny Cochran is? No? Well, I knew Johnny from when I was a public defender, because we did criminal cases together. Okay? And so when he found out that I was in this firm, he called me up and said, would you be my lawyer? And Johnny was, this is before OJ. Johnny was probably, if not the best known, one of the best known lawyers in LA. Very successful. He had 10 lawyers working for him. And when you got 10 lawyers working for you and almost everything you do is civil rights and personal injury, you get sued. So I always had at least 10 of his cases going. And if you were to ask me which did I like better, criminal or civil, I'd tell you both. There wasn't one I liked better than the other. I had a blast. I loved it. But being a trial lawyer is like being a jock. It's like being an athlete, and at a certain point, you get too old. And if you're lucky, you know that you're getting too old. Because you don't want to be one of these old guys that's hanging around in the courthouse that everybody's laughing at. So I hung it up, and we moved out here. I've been here for 8 years, and we love it. And that's basically my story. So why don't you tell me about yourself?
Well, you guys already know
No,
my
you
name,
don't have to
so
stand up.
I'm just
Next week.
So my full name is Brian Agbayani. I've been a resident here since 1995. Moved here from the Philippines. I was about 6 years old. Moved away to Bay, so I got my bachelor's over on that side. And I was
Where?
Berkeley.
UC?
Yeah.
Berkeley.
Yes.
You got your BA there.
Yes.
Yeah. One of my sons did.
Oh, nice. What was his major? Probably some weird
Psychology.
Psychology. Okay.
What was your major?
Weird major called rhetoric. So
Well, that's a good one.
yeah, it's hard to explain to anyone, every job interviewer what it is. So I started to stay away from my major. I was set to want to go to law school right off after, but I wanted to explore my options and see if I really wanted to do it. So I worked for various firms in various practices, general practicing to like intellectual property, as well as a real estate firm here. And then I was like, you know what, I think I'm ready to go back. So like 5 years later, so I'm here, and it works with my schedule. But then I want to do it, full time, 3 years. I like doing part time work, and then come here at night. So it works out my schedule. So I'm really glad I waited.
So are you working?
Yeah, I have 2 jobs right now currently. It's 2 jobs that I got when I came back. I wanted something just comfortable. So I work in the evenings, so like early mornings, for a newspaper distribution center. So
Slow down.
in newspaper distribution center.
Okay. And
Just
use newspaper distribution?
yeah, so you work with the paper boys, paper girls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
So
very easy
what,
job.
for the Desert Sun or for,
All of the trucks come in. And,
or all of them?
yeah, the carriers they
LA Times? Okay.
It's easy job, but it's very hectic.
And what else do you do?
And then I also work at a restaurant. It's called Fisherman's Market and Grill.
Yeah,
So
which one?
the one in Palm Desert.
Well, if you see me, just wave.
I'll get you a table right away.
We only go out, we only go there when it's cool enough to eat outside because we take our dog.
Oh yeah. Love
You'll recognize us by the dog.
that. Can't wait. We love dogs. That's pretty much it. So that's me in a nutshell.
You figured out have you thought about what area of the law you'd like to practice in?
That's my constant, search. I'm looking maybe insurance in the criminal law.
Where?
Maybe with Team Dolan.
When going?
Yeah. So hopefully something opening up soon.
That's a good one. There's also the public defender's office and the DA's office.
Yeah.
Either one. Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
The reason I told you about 2 different things is that if you had told me when I started law school or when I went to work for the public defender's office that I would wind up doing civil law, I'd have laughed at you. I was a red hot true believer, criminal defense all the way. It's all I'm gonna ever do. And the good thing about practicing law is you can change, or you can do multiple things. And you never know what's gonna happen. So,
I'm Claire Aldonga, and I'm from San Bernardino. But I was raised in Carpinteria by Santa Barbara.
yeah,
So my mom had this idea to come closer to family, so we ended up leaving and coming to San Bernardino, So when I
which one do you like better?
well, I was like, why did we come in family? So
Who wants to come
I
here?
want to know who wants to come to your family. So
Carpinteria is pretty nice.
yes, I go back every year and see friends. All my family's over here, so kind of not my family. But anyway, so when I was 18, I got accepted into UC Santa Barbara because my oldest brother went there and I was going to go. And in my family, I had a choice to get married or go to, college. Well, my future husband at the time told me, we'll get married and move out there.
Moved to Santa Barbara.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
well,
What happened?
I ended up in Compton.
I did time in Compton.
You did
I did
time
2 years at Compton in the public defender's office. Isn't that a beautiful
It was
building?
Compton and, you know, well,
Isn't that courthouse just a beautiful building?
I never made it to the court.
but
I didn't
you-
even wanna leave the house.
But you've seen it. I think it's the only high rise in Compton.
I was like,
It looks like a prison.
It does.
yes, so,
And when you're working there, you think you're in prison. But, yeah, anyway.
I was afraid to leave, so anyway, had a son and, so surprisingly, we got divorced. So I came back to San Bernardino and started from scratch. And I ended up working, my mom worked for the state at the time for Caltrans. She had me applying places and I ended up working for the state compensation insurance fund. And so I stayed there. I've been there 32 years. And I'm a workers' comp adjuster for them. I mainly do, I travel up and down the state teaching judges, workers' comp judges and lawyers, Medicare, and how to apply them to our settlements. So that's what I do. So
Okay.
then a friend of mine, who was actually a running partner of mine, he worked for the DA's office, prosecutor. He got appointed a judge in 2006 by Governor Schwarzenegger. And he talked me into going back to school and everything, because I was a single mom, didn't have time to do everything. So I kind of started from scratch.
Where'd you go?
I ended up going to junior college at Crampton, and I went to Tennessee. And then, I was taking my time because I had a rebellious son at the time, and now he's a paramedic over there. That surprised me.
That's pretty good.
Over here in Yucca Valley, so, yes, I couldn't go anywhere because I was afraid he was gonna have a party or something if I did it. So.
Maybe he is.
He probably did, so now he works for San Bernardino County now. He's stationed out there.
That's not a bad one.
So,
I do Yucca Valley once a month.
oh, you do, okay.
Yeah, we take our dog up here.
Oh, okay.
And then we do stuff out there. And one day we might go to Joshua Tree, another time we might go to Pioneer Town.
Happy and Harry.
Go to Pappy and Harry.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so workers' comp ain't nothing like what we're gonna be studying,
Don't want to go to work
okay?
anymore.
When I left the public defender's office, I thought, I didn't know anything about civil practice. This is before I got the phone call to go to this firm. I left the PD's office, and for a year, I was on my own, and I was doing court appointments. That's what John does. And I was hoping that I would get into civil, but I didn't know anything. I figured, well, I'm a public defender, I'll do workers' comp, goes hand in hand. I didn't know anything about workers' comp, and so I took this a seminar on workers' comp from the guru of workers' comp in Ellen at the time. And he asked, just like we're doing now, he asked us about ourselves and going around introducing ourselves. And I told him I just looked at the public defender's office and I had been a trial lawyer with the public defender's office. He said, "Oh, you're a real lawyer." He said, "You do stuff like evidence, the evidence code."
That's how.
At which point I realized I wasn't in the right place. So, tell us about yourself.
My name is Isabel Torres. I am from the Valley. I was born in Indio, raised in Coachella. I subbed for all the grades K through 12 in all of the Valley, sometimes all the way out in Swansea for West Shores. Not married, don't have kids. I did my bachelor's at the University of Laverne with a major in political science and a minor in English.
Now, what do you want to do?
I came in wanting to do civil rights and immigration law, but as I'm exposed to all of the last three, and I know I'm going to be exposed to more law, I'm not really sure if I'm dead set on those yet.
Well, you're gonna see a lot of civil rights cases in civil trial. Okay? You know what most civil rights cases are about. What do you think?
Well, I guess civil rights and knowing the Constitution and how they infringe on.
Most of them are police brutality cases. Almost 80% of them are excessive force cases. Okay, you don't see many other types of civil rights cases these days. That doesn't mean that there aren't. I did one, I'll tell you guys about it later. I represented a plaintiff in a civil rights case. Civil rights cases are like different category of cases. That case took 7 years. Okay. Interestingly, I'm a mediator for the Central District Federal Court. The Central District includes Los Angeles, Orange County, Orange County, San Bernardino, and Riverside County. There's a courthouse in Riverside. There's also a courthouse in Santa Ana, and there's a courthouse in Pasadena, as well as 2 in downtown Los Angeles. I was recently at a meeting of the mediators in Riverside, and they passed out, I don't know if I kept it, but if I did, I'll make a copy and give you guys a copy. And it shows a breakdown of the cases that we get. All right, types of cases, and whether it's federal or state, you're gonna get, it's all civil. Hello, this is civil procedure, okay? So it can be anywhere from contract disputes, tort cases, civil rights cases, you name it, okay? Intellectual property. What do you think the breakdown is? What do you think the largest number of cases are in federal court? They go to mediation. Now, if they go to mediation, that means pretty much all of the cases. Okay, because they order mediation and everything. So what do you think the breakdown is? Contracts, torts, civil rights, intellectual property.
All the sports.
What do you think?
That go to mediation?
80% was civil rights. Right? But they're all excessive. They're all excessive force cases, or almost all excessive force cases. And so I did a couple with the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office, and I don't think they want me back. San Bernardino Sheriff's Office is kind of They're like, kind of like cowboys. Yeah, they weren't real happy with me. At any rate, so that's, that, you know, we'll give you a more of a breakdown later on how this works, okay? So,
I'm Daniel Caliendo, and I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts.
there's another one.
Yeah, there are actually.
There's another Boston?
There is another Boston. I can't remember what state it's in. I want to say it's like Kentucky or something like that. Anyways, so yeah, I lived my whole life. I'm 26 now, so I lived there until I was 24.
So how come you don't have an accent?
I don't know.
When you don't pack a cat?
No, I do. It just comes out with certain words. It's not that heavy.
No, it's not. I mean, it's not.
I think
My wife's from Philly and she doesn't either.
yeah,
But it's just teeny tiny words.
exactly. It's the ARs, you know.
Yeah, but you go back to Philly, it's like, the Philly's like Boston. They got their own little thing going, and it's pretty interesting. Anyway,
Yeah. So I don't live. You'll find the heavier accents are south, you know, like in Southie.
Yeah.
I live north of the city, so maybe that has something to do with it. About 15 minutes outside of the city,
what city?
right outside, right next to Lowell, Massachusetts. Have you heard of Lowell?
I've been there.
You've been there?
Yeah.
The town over, it's called Billerica. I don't tell anybody what it's called because they have no idea. Just like I don't know anything about California, you know. I don't know. Geographic wise, I really don't know too much.
So what brought you out here?
A job offer, and so I had a friend from college. I went to the University of Connecticut, and then I transferred to Suffolk. So I did 3 years at UConn. Then I transferred to Suffolk to be closer to family. I figured I'd save some money too by commuting into the city. And I had a friend from UConn who was out here, and I came and visited him in March, and it was beautiful. And you know, he didn't really tell me about the summers, but I was supposed to.
And which would you rather have, the summers here or the winters there?
The summers here,
Yeah.
110%, especially because I've lived there my entire life. I'm sick of the snow. I'm sick of 6-month winters. You know, it's horrible. So
Yeah, whenever my wife starts complaining about, you know, the summers, I just say, would you rather go back to Philly?
and the answer is no.
No,
The answer is
no, never.
Never. So I came out to visit for a week, and I ended up staying for 2 because I liked it so well, and I had started applying for jobs, and I had 4 or 5 interviews lined up, but I had a really promising phone interview when I was back in Boston with my boss now that's out here. I work for a staffing company, a paralegal, so it's for a private corporation, and we have 3 ongoing suits. One actually that just finished up, a medical malpractice case. We have a trade secrets case, and we have a case with a workers' comp insurance company over premium disputes. The company that I work for has been involved in legal malpractice cases. We were successful against Louis Brisbois for a $9 million suit for overbilling us.
I'm sure they did.
They did. They did. And that was before my time, but that's the kind of company I work for. The owner of the company does not settle. He's out of all the civil cases he's had, 100% of them have gone to trial because he.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, who tries them?
Usually we have a couple of different attorneys. One in Claremont named Greg Half. One in Orange County, Klein and Wilson. Anyways, he's a very particular guy. The guy that owns the company, he's very high end, so
He gets good lawyers.
he gets good lawyers. The legal bills are pretty ridiculous for our company, but he likes to make a point. And
Does he have attorney's fees clauses?
yeah,
Okay,
trust me.
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, he's this guy that used to work. He's older, but he used to work for Tenneco when Tenneco was like the 3rd largest conglomerate, and he used to be pretty high up at Tenneco. So he's seen a lot of litigation rather. So I've kind of been the liaison between, because we have nobody in house. So I'm the liaison between the attorneys that we outsource to kind of do all this scuff work for them. So it's interesting.
That's a good job.
Yeah, it is a good job.
And that's here in the valley?
That's here in the valley, yeah.
That's even better.
No, it is. It's the best job I've ever had, and I don't only do the legal stuff. We have about 150 employees in-house, and I get to do HR stuff, and I get to do accounting things, like collections and filing collection suits. I get to draft the complaints for those and send those off to the attorneys to file and stuff. So it's a really good job, a lot of invaluable experience for sure.
And that overbilling thing, we'll talk more about that later, but, that's basically legal malpractice.
It is.
That's legal malpractice.
That's what it was. It was a legal malpractice case.
And I just got hired, but I won't be giving an opinion, by a lawyer who wanted to file, a motion for his attorney's fees in basically a collections case that settled for $60,000. They took one deposition and defended a motion for summary judgment. Motion for summary judgment can be very complicated and expensive, but his fees were $275,000. And he wanted me to give him a declaration saying that $275,000 was reasonable. Like I said, I'm not gonna be giving him an opinion. This stuff, it's out there.
It's crazy. I've never seen it before until I started working here. So that's what I mean by the experience I get at the company I work for. It's just invaluable.
Well, that's invaluable.
For sure. I've never been exposed to this kind of stuff. So very grateful for the job I have, and it's really hectic and really stressful. So balancing last year was really difficult.
This year's gonna be better, but the classes you're taking are still
difficult. Yeah.
They're not gonna be easy. Okay.
It was a lot of reading before work, reading on my lunch breaks, and all the rest of it. So I usually work about 50 hours a week.
Okay, well, I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I'm aware that most of you are working. And did I ask you what you were doing?
Substitute teacher.
For any grade or for?
Yeah, K through 12.
Yeah, okay, K through 12. In what district?
Coachella Valley.
Okay. My mother was a teacher. My wife was a teacher before she went back and got her master's in as a LCSW. You know what that is? Clinical social worker. It's basically like a psychologist, only they don't do testing and they do psychotherapy. Okay, and she wound up going back to LA school district as a psychotherapist. My youngest son worked for LAUSD as a teacher for 5 years, and now he's a musician. So now he's in between gigs. He gigs. He just got his PhD. Why pick it up at USC, so we can teach at the college level. Okay, but he doesn't have a job. He just called me up. He said, "What the hell am I getting? Why did I spend 5 years doing this?" Okay, so tell us, Trish, what are you up to?
Oh, I'm from Philly, being of Philly.
What part?
Westchester.
Okay,
Westchester?
yeah,
It's a suburb of Philly.
she's from Cheltenham.
Cheltenham, yeah, that's supposed to be like downtown Philly, but I lost my accent on purpose, and I don't say order or fast anymore.
Say the state above us.
I gotcha. Oregon.
Very good. That
People
was
say Oregon, I know.
Oregon. Yeah.
Oregon.
Okay. Go ahead.
I do still say orange though, like orange to eat. It's
Yeah.
not orange, it's orange. Anywho, so This is my second time around. I can see you guys fine, and I can see myself in the but I've been here since 2003, and I love it. I love the sunshine, and would never want to go back to Philly or any other cold place. Anyway, so I would encourage people to just never give up. I thought I was a smart person too. I failed the baby bus 3 times. Because it has nothing to do with being smart. It has to do with, it's all strategy.
It's all test taking. This is
Yeah,
test taking
yeah.
stuff. It has nothing to, I mean, you can know the subject matter cold, but if you don't use the right test taking strategies, that's gonna cost you. But the good news is, for civil procedure, having, I went to UCLA undergrad, and I got waitlisted at UCLA Law School, which started in October. And I got into USC, which started in mid-August. And I'm not a gambler. So I went to SC my first year, and I'm really old, see, so things are a lot different when I went to law school than for you guys. So tuition at USC, my first year, was $4,500. You know what it is today? I think it's 50. I think it's 50 now. Yeah. So I applied to transfer to UCLA because $4,500 was a lot of money. It doesn't sound like it, but in 1966, 67, that was a lot of money. And they raised it to 9,000 after my first year. My parents couldn't afford the 4,500, and I didn't want to borrow money. So I applied to go to UCLA, which was $300 a year. Okay. Yeah, and it's a better law school. Okay, so then it was really better. Today they're very close, but in those days, UCLA was ranked in the top 10, and SC was like number 40. So if you could get into UCLA for $300 a year, it was a no-brainer, and they accepted me, and I wound up going to UCLA. So they taught law different at the two schools at that time. I don't know what they're doing now, but SC was known as a theory school, whereas UCLA was black letter, which meant that when I took civil procedure at SC, it was all theory. When I studied for the bar, the only class that I looked at and went, what the hell is this? Was civil procedure. It was like a new class. And you don't want to be doing that when you're doing the bar review, because it says bar review. You're reviewing what you're already supposed to know, okay? I don't want that happening to you. So I try to teach this to the bar exam, okay? Occasionally we'll get theoretical. Trish, what are you doing now for a living?
I am working at a clinical research company in Carlsbad, which is where I am right now. And I work from, luckily I could work from home on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I was able to take 2 days a week that I could work from home. So that allowed me to do 2 classes and spend the least amount of time, driving. So I worked there, and on the weekends I worked for my friend who's a work comp attorney. She just started her own practice in January, and it's extremely busy. She's very, she's doing really well. So I do a lot of filing working on the weekend for her. But I'm a data management consultant at the clinical research company. We do clinical trials, basically, pharmaceutical companies hire us to use their clinical trials.
Okay. That's pretty heavy duty stuff.
It's interesting, it really is.
Yeah, I'll bet. So, we'll probably get some pharmaceutical cases too. This I recall.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they are right now, but well, I think we have some. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about civil procedure and what's going to be expected of you. And does that sound good to you guys? All right. So what you studied last year is substantive law. Okay. Substantive law is the law or rules that govern social behavior, how we behave amongst one another on a day-to-day basis in society. Criminal law, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, right? Those are all, that's all substantive law. I'm just gonna make some kind of religious comparisons because I just thought of it. Okay, see how that goes. Procedural law is completely different than substantive law. Procedural law is the study of rules on how you get to court, what you have to do to get to court, to get into court, and once you're in court, how you behave when you're in court. Now, I don't mean, yes, Judge, Your Honor, and that stuff, but what you have to do to get your case from point A to the conclusion, whether it's a good settlement or you go to trial and you get a good award. And if you don't like that, then you've got an appeal. And we're going to study all of those things, okay? And that would be like the 10 Commandments governs how we behave towards one another. And civil procedure is how you're going to behave when you go to church or synagogue or a mosque, okay? What you do when you get there, all right? So when you look at a case in civil procedure, you're looking at it in a completely different way than you did the cases for criminal law, torts, or contract, okay? You're looking for different types of facts. You're looking for procedural facts, not substantive facts. When you're looking for the issue, it's what is the procedural issue? And the rule is going to be what procedural rule or rules are involved in this case. And then you apply it. Are you going to do IRAC? Okay. But the issue is going to be different than substantive law. The rule's going to be a procedural, right? And that's why, well, first of all, before we look at this case, we're just going to do one case tonight, okay? And I think it's a good example of why it's different in how you look at a case, okay? In civil procedure, if you don't dot all your I's and cross all your T's and do what you're supposed to do and follow the rules, then what will probably happen is that your client will wind up having his case or her case dismissed. Now that doesn't mean that they don't have recourse. You know what that recourse is? What? Yeah, they'll sue you. Okay, so this is really important stuff, because if you, these cases get dismissed for reasons that have nothing to do with who's right. So when you're looking at these cases, forget who's got the better case, who's right, who's wrong, has nothing to do with it. It's did they follow the rules? Okay? And cases get dismissed because lawyers didn't do what they were supposed to do. It can be really scary for those lawyers, right? And I can tell you, I made a handsome living off of lawyers who screwed up. All right? So let's take a look at, now, before, if you follow the rules, what happens? The case goes forward. The case proceeds, okay? And then you get to the substantive stuff. We're not interested in that. Okay, you studied most of that last year, all right? So today we're talking until you get to con law. That's next year. The stuff we're going to be looking at for the first half of this course is almost all constitutional law. But it's constitutional procedural. Next year, you're going to be studying constitutional substantive, okay? And when you do criminal procedure, although it's called procedure, it's substantive law. It's all due process. Now, starting next week, when we do personal jurisdiction, you're going to be studying due process. But it's procedural due process. Okay? The good news is you will have an idea, hopefully, if you get this stuff, when you do con law next year, what due process is all about. I'm the rest of it. Okay? So, Hawkins versus Masters Farms. Anybody think they understood that case?
Why is it was dismissed? The main reason why it was dismissed is.
Well, we'll get there, but do you want to try and take it?
Yeah, I'll try that.
Okay. So go ahead.
Okay, so facts of the case state that the decedent, Mr. Creel, was killed in an automobile accident in Troy, Kansas. Mineral Point Road, just south of Troy.
Forget
Kansas.
that. You're already getting lost in the substantive facts.
So they filed.
There's an accident. All we need to know is there's an auto versus tractor accident. You don't really even need to know that. All you need to know is there was an accident in Kansas. Okay, and somebody died. Right? And what state were the defendants from? Yeah. Got it? Okay. This is filed in federal court, and it's filed on the basis of diversity jurisdiction. There's two different kinds of subject matter jurisdiction. We'll get to that later, okay? One of them's, it's diversity jurisdiction. Diversity jurisdiction means that It's a dispute between citizens of different states. Okay? If one plaintiff and one defendant are from the same state, that defeats diversity. Okay? So what's the issue with this case? You get the issue?
The issue is, was the plaintiff domiciled in Kansas or Missouri?
Well, why is domicile an issue?
Because he moved.
No, those are facts.
Okay. Where they can file.
What's the issue?
Who has the?
Why is domicile an issue?
It's which court can hear.
It's whether the deceased was a citizen of Kansas or Missouri. Okay? Get it? That's the issue. What's the rule? You got the rule?
Well, for domicile.
Or what's the rule for diversity? You're not expected to know this. You never took civil procedure. That's the reason I picked this case. Is this all procedural crap? Okay. Look at page 9, the last two paragraphs. It says a person is a citizen. You want to read that? You see it?
Okay, so, for purposes of determining whether diversity jurisdiction exists, a person is a citizen of the state in which he or she is domiciled. And domicile is established by physical presence.
Hold on, let's stop there. That's the rule.
That's what-
Okay. The next thing is read that.
So, for adults, domicile is established by physical presence and placed in connection with a certain state of mind concerning one's intent to remain there.
Okay. In civil procedure, and almost all the cases we're going to be looking at are going to be appellate cases or Supreme Court cases. Okay? So in federal and state as well, appellate law. Okay? There's a rule, and then there's what is called either a test. And the courts refer to it as a test. But you can also say it's a requirement or an element. Like if you compare it to criminal law or torts or contracts, and they have elements, right? You got to remember what all the elements are. Okay, so you got the rule there on what the requirement is for diversity. Okay, to be a citizen, there has to be domicile. Then the test for domicile, or the requirement for domicile, is what?
Well, it's a state of mind concerning one's intent to remain there.
There's two things. Physical presence, right? Physical presence, or they say state of mind, which is intent to remain, right? To remain in the state, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's called the test, okay? So, why don't you give us the result? Now we got the issue, and we got the rule, and we got the test. What were the procedural facts that caused the court to come to the conclusion that it did. This guy, what was his name? Creel. So Creel used to live with Mama
Yes.
in Missouri until he met the lady that became Mrs. Creel. So what happened? What'd he start doing in Kansas? Just what they say in the book, not what they actually did.
Well, he moved in with her in an apartment with her children,
Yeah,
and then except his mail.
well, you know, you got, what did he do in Kansas? Did he pay for anything?
Yeah, he helped pay for the groceries, and
Did he split something else with her?
he,
Utilities.
yeah,
What about his clothes? What happened to his clothes?
yeah, he moved his clothes in that apartment as well.
Yeah, did he do so, what about a bedroom set? They buy a bedroom set, you guess? Yeah. And then he wound up staying there all the time, right? Yeah, so what connection did he have with Missouri?
Just his mom and mail.
Well, he kept his driver's license there, his car registration, and his car insurance. Maybe it was cheaper in Missouri. Who knows? So, what did the court say? Which state was he domiciled?
They deemed that he was domiciled in Kansas because there was no large evidence towards him being a floating intention of moving back.
The court said he was both present in Kansas and his conduct indicated that he intended upon remaining in Kansas, right? I mean, he's living there full time,
That's the test.
right? He bought a bedroom set. He moved his clothes in. Why they wanted federal court versus filing a lawsuit in state court, we don't know, but it must have been that they felt there was some advantage to being in federal court to state.
That's what I was gonna ask.
That's what this is all about, okay? Now, in this situation, if it gets dismissed from federal court on something like that, they can refile it in state court, okay? If the statute of limitations hasn't expired. Now, so there's no harm to the plaintiff if the statute hasn't been blown. Now, if the statute's blown, then this lawyer really screwed up.
So,
Yeah,
so the plaintiff Hawkins that's bringing the suit is trying to get it into federal court.
that's what this is all about.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we're gonna be studying for the next 6 to 8 weeks is just jurisdiction, okay? And what that's about is picking the right court. Can you get it into federal court? And if you get it into federal court, can you keep it there? Okay? You can always sue in state court. So there are advantages to suing in federal court. What are the advantages? Well, if there's diversity, okay, that means you've got parties in different states. So it's really hard, if not impossible, to sue a citizen of another state in state court. Okay, that's why you go to federal court. And then there are certain procedural advantages. There are also a lot of disadvantages. We'll talk about those later. The reality is, well, you get better judges. You may get a better jury pool, that tend to be more educated. Federal juries tend to be more educated because they come from a wider segment of the population. They don't just come, for example, if you were to file a lawsuit in India in state court, all your jurors are gonna come from the Coachella Valley. Okay, if you file it in federal court, your jurors, and you're in Riverside, your jury pool will come from all of Riverside County. They may come from Orange County. Some of them might come from LA County, and some of them might come from San Bernardino. So you get a much wider draw, okay? If that's what you're looking for. And, you know, if you are a certain type of plaintiff, that may be what you want. If it's a civil rights case, most plaintiffs' attorneys who do civil rights want to be in federal court because the judges know civil rights law. And the judges in state court really don't. And it doesn't sound like it's complicated, but it's a very complicated area of the law. Okay? Also, in civil rights cases, you get attorney's fees if you win $1. You like that, huh? That sounds pretty good, huh? And federal judges tend to come from white collar, white shoe, fancy pants law firms that have high billing rates. And so they tend to pay higher attorney's fees than judges in state court who don't come from firms like that. Okay, so there's a lot of nuance that we'll get into that you aren't going to read about in the book or any book. All right. So we just went through what to kind of look for, but Trish, I'll pass this out. I mean, I'll send this to you on the internet, okay?
Okay, thank you.
This is just what I'm looking for in your briefs. Okay, how to brief a civil procedure. All right, so first of all, the facts, okay? What are you looking for? Who's the plaintiff? Okay, let's just talk about the plaintiff. You can say the appellant or the appellee, but it's easier just to say the plaintiff and the defendant, okay? And it's gonna be really important for the next 6 weeks, or at least the next 3 weeks, when we talk about personal jurisdiction. No, I'll make it the next 6 weeks, because then we gotta do diversity, okay? So we wanna know what state or country the plaintiff's from, because diversity doesn't just include other states. It can be suits between a citizen of the United States, which can be an individual or a corporation, and a corporation or a person from another country. Okay. The defendant. Who's the defendant? What state or what country are they from? That's the first thing you're going to be looking for. Okay. Not what kind of accident was it? Where did it occur? What are the injuries? That's basically irrelevant. What is the type of law upon which the plaintiff bases the lawsuit? And what I'm talking about here, and you'll get to it when we do subject matter jurisdiction, because one of them, there's two kinds of subject matter jurisdiction. One is diversity, and the other is federal question. So are they basing their claim on the US Constitution, or are they basing it on a federal law, or are they basing it on both? Okay, if you've got a tort case or a breach of contract case, then it's got to be diversity. It can't, that's not a federal question. Okay, so you got to look and see what's the kind of law that they're basing their lawsuit on. And we're not talking about is it a a battery or is it negligence? We're talking about, is it state law or is it federal law? Okay? Now, there'll be cases where it's both. As long as it's both, that's okay. As long as there's a federal law involved, that's okay. That'll get you subject matter jurisdiction. But if there is none, then it's gotta be diversity. Now, for the first 3 weeks, you're not really gonna be worried about that because we're gonna be talking about personal jurisdiction, which means does the court have jurisdiction over a defendant? Okay? And the defendant is gonna be looking to get out of it. That's what, okay? The defendant's gonna be looking to get rid of this case in federal court at least by showing the court that that the court does not have jurisdiction over it. Okay? And lastly, what's the procedural history of the case? How did we get from step 1 to where we are now? Okay? For example, you'll have cases where it'll say so-and-so made a motion to dismiss on the basis of no personal jurisdiction. The motion was denied. Okay? Then it went to trial and the defendant got hammered for $9 million. Now they're on appeal. What are they appealing? They're appealing the denial of their motion. Because if they had prevailed on that motion, then they never would have got hit for the $9 million. So they're trying to get out of the $9 million by getting the Court of Appeals to reverse the trial court on jurisdiction. And you all know what CS means? Chicken poop? It sounds CS, right? But if the court buys it, no $1 million verdict. Okay? So that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. All right? Those are the facts you need to be looking at. The issue is, like we just did, what's the procedural issue? Okay? It'll be in the case. Then we want the rule, the procedural rule. We want the test for that rule. And then we'll do the application. It's just IRAC, okay? And your conclusion. You don't have to do more than a page. Okay? We don't need, you don't need to, write a law review article. It's a brief. A brief means it's brief. Okay? I will be assigning approximately 30 pages a week. All right? It's really going to be less than 30 pages except when we have half a class. Okay? So we have to make up for that. And then there'll be times when I'm giving you more than 30 pages, but usually if it's more than 30 pages, it's because the subject matter of that chapter is kind of, it's not going to be on the board. You got to do it. It's required. We have to, and you need to talk about it like there's a whole very long chapter on incentives to litigate. Okay, why would you want to litigate a case? Okay, most of it is interesting. You need to know it to be a lawyer, and okay, but you're not going to get tested on it. So I may give you a whole long reading assignment. I'll tell you it's coming. But hidden in there are going to be stuff like attorney's fees. Like I just said, you can get attorney's fees on a civil rights case. That gives you an incentive as a lawyer to want to litigate a case, right? In this book, which I like, because Professor Yezel taught at UCLA. Why wouldn't I like this book? Go to page 11 in the book. Okay, now you see these sections where he's got notes and problems. First of all, go to the left and it says, now what's new here? Read that stuff. Okay, it's good stuff. On page 11, 1 and 2, if you look at each one of these things, almost, like 1, B, 2, and 3, it's just questions with no answers. There's no answers below. Don't read that. You don't have to read that stuff. If I think that it's a good question and that you need to know the answer to it, we'll go over it. Okay? And look at number 2, it's all question, right? It's all question marks with no answers. So the only way you're gonna get an answer is from me. And if I don't think it's important, there's no reason for you to read it. So if it's just questions, and there's a question mark with no answer afterwards, don't read it. But if it's something like, go back to 1, and it says, focus on what the parties did that led to this decision, and it says the plaintiff filed a complaint, stay tuned, stating a claim for damages for wrongful death. Fine, you can read that, okay? Then go down to 3. And he's got, can plaintiffs file the claim again in federal court? Can plaintiffs file the claim again in state court? And then he answers it. So you should read that. Not only is it something that is interesting for you, but you can expect that some of these questions will be repeated on one of your exams. Okay? So you need to know this stuff. But as you can see, by eliminating where it's just a bunch of questions, you're not going to have 30 pages. So there's no reason for you guys not to be able to read each assignment and get it briefed. No book briefs. I want you guys to turn in a copy of your brief at the beginning of the class. Okay?
Is that for
Right.
everybody's?
And I don't want to hear, oh, my printer isn't working. Or what?
Just what's on the, yeah, so this.
Yeah.
Those are ones we're checking. The ones that sell this, those are the ones that we're turning in.
Well, let's look. So next week,
Is that?
we're going to start with jurisdiction, right? Personal jurisdiction. All right. So that'll be September 13th. Casebook, read chapter 2, 63 through 102. All right. You'll come out to about 30 pages when you eliminate the question marks. Okay. Now, where are you gonna find the US Constitution and amendments? Or later on, you're gonna see sections, look down on 920, it'll say read 28 USC section 1391. USC stands for United States Code. Okay? You're gonna find all this stuff in the Heiser book, in the supplement, and the appendix. It's got federal rules, it's got the US Constitution, okay, and it's got California rules of civil procedure. But we're not gonna get to California rules of civil procedure until March. All right, we're gonna go through all the federal rules and this book from September to March, and then from March until the end, we'll do California. Why? Because starting 2 years ago, they added California civil procedure to the state law. Okay, so you gotta know the book.
Only 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. When I'm telling you, I did my public defender thing, right? And then this Santa Monica civil litigation firm hires me. I didn't know anything about California civil procedure. We never studied it. Now, the reality is, it's not that difficult. Okay? And they're books that you're gonna have on your desk because nobody can remember all of this stuff. And spell it word for word. You'll remember some rules, but you can have, it's what usually called the rudder group. Do you have a rudder group in your office? All right, get it. It's the best. It's the life. When you go into judges' chambers, you'll see the rudder group on civil procedure. And it's a 3-volume set. When you got a question, you go to the rudder group, you look it up. It's also online. I haven't signed up for the online version because it's too expensive. But this is what we're gonna do. You got 2 systems, okay? In California, you start out in Superior Court. Whoops. In federal court, you start out in district court. That's what you have in Riverside. In California, you start out in Superior Court. That's what you got in India. You don't like the result, you appeal. It's Court of Appeals. Oh man, what's the matter with me? I'm sorry. Federal court is Circuit Court of Appeals, okay? State is Court of Appeals. US is United States Supreme Court. California is California State Supreme Court. That system look different? And the rules aren't that much different. There are differences, and we'll go over every rule that you need to know for the bar exam for each one of those systems, okay? What you should know is the judge is here. It's a lifetime appointment. Okay? Not just the US Supreme Court, it's a lifetime appointment. This is a lifetime appointment. This is a lifetime appointment. This is a lifetime appointment. These guys run their courts like they're kings. When you go into a federal court, it's 2 times the size of a state court. And that courthouse is usually impressive. Riverside, not so much. But if you go downtown LA or go to Santa Ana, those courthouses are really nice. And those courtrooms are really nice. And when you stand at the bench here, this is pretty close. In federal court, he's way back there, and the bench is really high. And the judges usually make you stay right there, so you can't roam around. Okay? They expect you to know the rules and to follow the rules. And if you don't, they'll throw you out faster than you can bat your eyelids. Okay? If you don't follow the rules, and they're not going to throw you out, they're just going to sanction you. They'll sanction you a lot of money. And your client isn't going to like it. And neither is your firm. Okay? So when you go to federal court, you better be prepared. Now you go to state court, you should be prepared. But the chances that you're going to get sanctioned like you would in federal court are not as great. Okay? These guys have to run for office. Okay? So they're going to suck up to you a little bit, unless they don't care. All right? You got to suck up to them too. And most of the sucking's on your side, not their side. But they tend to be nicer to lawyers in state court than they are in federal court. Okay? However, in federal court, you'll find, other than civil rights lawyers who are their own breed, you're going to find a lot of the downtown LA high-powered law firms, okay? Because they have big corporate clients who don't mind paying top dollar. Not so much in state court, okay? So most of your lawyers that you're going to come in contact with, and that you'll probably deal with when you're a lawyer, are going to be in state court. Okay? Most lawyers prefer to be in state court than in federal court for the reasons that I just stated. Okay? It's easier to be in state court than it is in federal court. But you, even though you may never set foot in a federal court, you guys got to know all this stuff. You know why?
Yeah, chance we do.
No.
It's on the bar.
Yeah. Yeah. Traditionally, the ABA and all ABA accredited law schools taught only federal law. Why? Well, it's the ABA.
The American Bar
It's the American Bar Association. So they're teaching the same thing. What you're studying here is the same thing somebody's studying at Suffolk. Okay? So the guys at Suffolk are studying exactly the same stuff. Maybe the same book, Maybe a different book, but you're studying the same things, okay? And the test's gonna be the same. It'll be the same kind of questions in terms of the multiple choice, okay? All the multiple choice is gonna be federal, pretty much. All right? Not so much in this class, because we're gonna give you some state court stuff too. Just to make sure that you're on your toes. Okay, but when you take the bar exam, multiple choice will be all federal. And the essay will be a combination of California and federal law. And you'll see when we start giving you, I'll give you practice exams, okay? But you won't get to that until the last part of the class. Okay, everybody understand where we're going? Any questions? You sure? Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, yeah. There's also an app you can get, or apps you can get for your phone for the federal rules. So if for some reason you don't have ICER with you, and you just want to check and see what the rule is, or the reading assignment has you reading the assignments, there's a free app. I've got it on my phone with the federal rules in it. I have it on my phone while I'm teaching, and then I delete it in the summer. Okay? There's also one for the California rules, but you don't need that now, so don't bother. And the outline I put in the syllabus, either Fleming's or Gilbert's. Have you guys bought outlines yet? You got Fleming's? How about you? Everybody got Fleming's? Trish?
Yes, I have Fleming.
Okay, so everybody's on the same page. Okay? That's it. We done. Oh, part of your assignment for next week, I suggest, since we're leaving early tonight, and we all need to make sure that we continue on with our class so that we complied with the requirements of the bar, and that you really should know this stuff and you should see it. Is there something very important going on right now on television? Right? Kavanaugh hearings. You should watch that. I don't care what station you watch it when it's on. I mean, at this time, it's probably only going to be on C-SPAN unless you recorded it. But when you set aside all of the political theater that's going on in the hearings, and they get into questioning the Kavanaugh on particular areas of the law, like Roe versus Wade, and they were questioning him yesterday on a number of different areas. That's what we're going to be studying. I mean, he actually cited a number of cases that we're going to be reading. Okay, so it's really interesting to see someone who most likely is going to be on the Supreme Court talking about this stuff, whether you like him or not. Okay, it doesn't matter. That guy is probably going to be on the court. He's in his 50s, so he could be on the court for the next 20, 30 years. If he's like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Jesus, she might be on it until she's 90. Okay, you never know. So it's very interesting, and I think you'll learn a lot by watching it. Okay? See you next week.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Clara.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
You can do that.
Hey, did you get it?
Probably by Saturday, I had this little thing, so they'll let me know when it gets here. So we can do it on Saturday. Yeah. That'd probably be the easiest way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because I can do it to my computer and then just throw it on a USB from there, throw it in everybody's, in a USB, and then everybody can just plug them in their house. And if that doesn't work, we can just, we'll have the CDs that each person can burn.